Now, a group of school children from Bradford have travelled to France and Belgium to honour the city's war dead. Now, they're following the same journey made by soldiers from their own neighbourhood who never returned from World War I.
Yes, the trip is even more poignant because it marks 100 years since some of the city's footballers lifted the FA Cup. And then, just a few years later, they too became casualties of the fighting.
Well, we were invited to join them, and our reporter James Webster was there for when their journey begins.
You'd be surprised at how many cemeteries there actually are. It's not just one.
Yeah, not just one big one.
No, there were so many people killed. There's quite a lot of little ones dotted about all over.
That sounds good, that last bus ceremony.
For 12-year-old Olivia, this will be her first trip away from home without her family, and she has an extra special reason for travelling.
Going to see my great-great-great-granddad, Walter H. Funnell. All I know is that he died in 1917 at age 27, I think.
There was a big fight, and they were coming over a big hill to attack the opposition, and almost, if not every one of them, unfortunately were killed.
The journey Olivia's getting ready for is one her mother made when she was younger.
I remember it vividly. I remember the war cemeteries in particular being very peaceful and very serene. It's really, really important that the younger generations know exactly what went on for us to be how we are today.
This trip's been organised to coincide with the 100th anniversary of Bradford City winning the FA Cup. The players were the David Beckhams and Wayne Rooneys of their day, but just a few years later, some of those same men fought and died in the trenches of France and Belgium. In 1917, the Great War was 3 years old and there was no end in sight. Olivia's relative Walter Funnell was one of the hundreds of thousands of soldiers from all sides that was dead.
Where you live, the local area.
Olivia's class have been studying what went on in World War I.
We thought it'd be useful before you go on the trip to France and Belgium that you could find a little bit out about the soldiers that came from Wyke and Low Moor, because when you're in France and when you're in Belgium and you go to these cemeteries, you'll be able to see where some of these local soldiers are buried.
It's just weird that there's that many people from Low Moor and Wyke gone to war and died.
There was someone who lives like 6 houses away from me, so I'm going to see his grave.
There's one over the road and he was 22 when he died.
Found a man who lived on Worthing Head Road, which is where my old school was.
They'll be following a very similar journey to one these soldiers made, and so it'll maybe make them realise how Wyke and Low Moor were affected by World War I. Then when we get to France, we can find some of the graves and hopefully make it a bit more personal for the students so they can see how Appleton Academy is very close to where a lot of soldiers who died in World War I came from.
It's a 6-hour journey by coach through the night from Bradford to Dover, and a chance for the students to find out what they'll be doing on the trip.
Going to see the graves because I've got family over there.
Looking at the trenches and eating some snails.
It is now 3:05 in the morning. It is now very important that you all get some sleep.
For some, the early morning crossing to Calais is their first time on a ferry, and for others, like the soldiers they're learning about, it's also their first time abroad. Coming up tomorrow, the students arrive in France and get their first taste of life in the trenches.
Oh, there's a rock!
This is the best trip ever.
And for Olivia, a tearful moment as she finds Walter's grave.
Just proud that he gave up his life for all people's freedom.
We'll have more from James Webster tomorrow, and we'd just like to say get well soon to Olivia, who you saw in that report. She's not very well at the moment, so best wishes from all of us because we know you're watching.
Well, now to the second part of our special series following a group of school children from Bradford as they retrace the steps of soldiers from their city who died in the First World War.
Well, last night we saw the pupils from Appleton Academy setting off on their journey to France and Belgium, some hoping to find the graves of relatives who were killed in battle.
Our reporter James Webster travelled with them as they saw the reality of war and the human cost.
Tiny towns and villages nestle in gentle hillsides covered in farmers' crops. A landscape today that disguises the horror of what happened in the trenches here almost 100 years ago. Today, the only reminders of what happened here are the many cemeteries and memorials that mark where the fallen are buried. Men from all backgrounds, not much older than the boys in this class, who these history students have now come to remember.
Would it go around that way?
So this is a German salient, the Messine Ridge salient.
The nearest they can get to understanding how those men died is by visiting the many restored and reconstructed trenches.
This is the best trip ever.
Even though it might feel like an adventure playground, the reality of what happened here isn't lost on these 12 and 13-year-olds.
A very good hiding place, but very scary. Like when people are running around after you.
It'd stink a lot and all, because it's all dead bodies and that.
Another hardship was the uncomfortable uniform, heavy for a grown man, let alone boys not much older than Callum, who'd lied about their age.
I don't know how they did it all. Hard work. It's all heavy. I don't feel sweaty and itchy.
There's 20,000 men in this wood, all belonging to 3 different divisions.
Here at Ulster Tower, archaeologists have unearthed part of the actual trenches that were used.
The sacrifice that the men made here, 60–70% casualties here in one day. The wood's very special, very, very special.
So many miles from home, and the links with our region are everywhere. This is Tyne Cot, the largest of the military cemeteries that the students have been shown. Here there are around 12,000 Commonwealth soldiers who died in the Battle of Passchendaele buried, and it's seeing this that helped the pupils understand the sheer scale of the fighting that took place.
It's just amazing to see like all the graves here and like how young some of them are and how old some of them are.
I'm really impressed with how colourful and how well it's kept. It makes you think like all of the other people, how they've suffered.
It's pretty bad really, seeing how many people died in war.
12-year-old Olivia was encouraged to come here by her mum to find her great-great-great-grandfather.
It's just so peaceful. She was right when she said that. When she said that I'd come here and I'd cry, I didn't think that I would at first. But it just comes to you. Just I'm proud that he gave up his life for all people's freedom. And he died at such a young age as well.
Leah Pearson also came here looking for one of her family.
He fought for this country and he's part of me, and it just means so much. And to see where he is, it's so peaceful, it's so nice. 21's no age to die.
Tomorrow night, as the students' visit draws to a close, they take part in one of the most famous acts of remembrance in the world. And tributes are paid to two of Bradford's footballers who lost their lives in the Great War.
It's quite a history lesson for them, isn't it?
I think it's an amazing thing for those children to do, isn't it?
James's third report, tomorrow night's programme.
Now to our final report, following a group of school children who've travelled to the war graves of France and Belgium to honour some of these men from Bradford who were killed in the First World War.
Yes, the students from Appleton Academy have already learned what life was like in the trenches and found the graves of some of their own relatives who lost their lives.
Well, tonight they find more links with our region and, as James Webster reports, spend time honouring the dead.
Modern-day Ypres, a busy city centre in Belgium where visitors enjoy good food and fine wine, but it's a city that was almost completely destroyed by the fighting of World War I. And it's to here and the surrounding battlefields that our class of history students have come to commemorate those who were killed here. Two of Bradford's most famous footballers, Donald Bell and Jimmy Spears, were among those killed in the nearby British trenches. Jimmy scored the winning goal for Bradford City in the 1911 FA Cup final. Exactly 100 years on from that match, the children honour him at his graveside.
I thought it was quite good that we came back and remembered not just a soldier but someone who was a great footballer. I felt quite honoured that I got to put the wreath down.
Donald Bell's remembered at this memorial. He was the first professional footballer to sign up to fight and the only ever to be awarded the Victoria Cross.
I used to play for Bradford Park Avenue for 6 years, and just to know that I play for the same club as him, it's really good. Once you get to know about them, it's a lot more special, like where they come from and what they did.
This sense of pride keeps coming through that a Bradford hero, that they can come and visit his grave and remember what he did. It's someone so local and so important to them.
At the same time as our visit, some members of Bradford City Football Club were also visiting the cemeteries.
These men were sort of legends of the club and everything else, but to see that they fell 6 years later in the Great War was quite a sobering thing. So I think, yeah, we've got to come in, we've got to show our respects to them.
But not everyone the children have learnt about has their own grave. The Thiepval Memorial remembers those never found after the Battle of the Somme, among them one man very close to home. This memorial really brings this trip full circle. Rawdon Booth was a man who lived on Wilson Road opposite the entrance to Appleton Academy, from where we set off on this trip. He was sent here to the Somme to fight and was killed at the age of just 22. He's now remembered here at this memorial to the missing, along with the names of 73,000 other men whose bodies have never been found. Back in Ypres, this is the most famous such memorial, the Menin Gate, where every night at 8 o'clock the traffic is stopped for this historic ceremony.
It was quite nice seeing so many people turn up to remember the dead people that died in the war. So I'm quite glad to be part of this.
It was really intense, and it certainly left a mark, because when they were all doing it,